Okay, I've now recorded this like 15 times, no exaggeration, so hopefully I remember everything. And if I forget something, I'm sorry. I've recorded this way too many times. But anyways, let's get started with the video. Okay, so Xbox controllers. They've pretty much always included them with their consoles since the very beginning, and there's never really been a reason to buy an extra controller because you have something like this and it gets the job done. I can play a game with this. There aren't any features lacking really. Like, this has what I need here, and even a little bit more, as recently they have added this little share button. So it's a black controller, it's hard to, but there's that share button in the middle now, and that's been a recent addition to the controller. So now there's actually even more than what I need to just play a game. But they've also had this line for a very long time. This is the Elite line. The Elite line has always just been their crazy, just overkill, extra line of controllers that have always costed so much money that makes you wonder, is it worth that money? Like, it has cool features, but this thing cost $180. That console behind me, that Xbox Series S, which is like the next gen console, it's basically the same as the Series X, just it doesn't have a disc reader. Like, there's some minor performances, but like, that gets the job done plenty well. That cost about $300. This controller costs over half of that console. That's a lot of money. They've always done this line since basically the Xbox One, and I've never actually gotten my hands really on one that was actually mine. I've seen the Series 1 and obviously the Series 2 controller. This is their second version of the controller. But I've seen them. They're cool, but I was like, are they really worth that $180? I mean, the biggest thing is it has paddles. Anyways, enjoy this epic voiceover of me letting you know the pros and cons, because after you pay $180, there's still so many ways that this controller does things better. Okay, so obviously probably the number one thing that you would buy this Xbox controller for is those paddles on the back. You have a total of 4 paddles, and you are able to make them do anything you want them to do in the Xbox Accessories app. You can bind them to be a BXY, maybe you want them to do D-pad commands, left, right bumper, anything, you can do it there. And then also you have a bunch of magnetic parts. So for the paddles, those are also removable. They're just kind of like magnetically slotted in, so you just like lift up and then pull them out. And also all the thumbsticks, you just lift up and they come off, except don't worry, your thumbsticks won't like do weird rotating things. There is a little locking mechanism in them. So like, I haven't noticed anything with my sticks kind of feeling a little loose or wobbly or just a little off. They feel the exact same, if not a little better than the normal sticks. You can also take your D-pad off, and you can either put the older version or the newer version D-pad on. And this also comes with a bunch of extra parts. So for your thumbsticks, you have a option for the normal default Xbox controller thumbsticks. Then you have these thumbsticks that are just kind of like flat and don't have those like grooves like the normal Xbox thumbsticks. And then you also have these two like more unique thumbsticks. So one's really short, stubby, and just rounded off, and then one's really tall, but it's just like a normal tall thumbstick. I run the unique set, so I have my left stick is that short stubby one, and then my right stick is that really tall one. Thought I would never do this to my controller, but I've been doing it since the beginning and I love it. And you are also able to change the tension of your controller sticks. So it comes with a little tool, you just insert it in there and you can twist and tighten it so your stick is super stiff, or you can loosen it and your stick is pretty loose. Fully loosened is the exact same as a normal Xbox controller stick, or at least to me, it feels about the same. And then fully tightened feels like it's not a big difference, but it's definitely tighter. And then you also have this little mode switcher button where the normal capture button would be on some of the newer generation Xbox controllers. And this allows you to switch between a default preset and then 3 of your own custom presets for what you want the buttons on the controller to do. And also, as a little gimmick, it comes in this really cool case. It's pretty hard shell, but it still has a nice like mesh kind of on the outside, which is great for traveling. I often bring my controllers places because I connect them to my tablet to play games on the go. And when I travel that once in a year, it is always nice having a case. And inside that case, there is room to store 4 extra thumbsticks, your little tensioner, and all of your paddles. Inside that case, there is also a Xbox branded USB-A to USB-C braided cable and a wireless charging dock, kind of like the docks that you can buy from Xbox to charge your other controllers. It's very similar, except I actually like this one less because there's this stupid cloth bit that sometimes gets in the way and then my controller doesn't charge. But it is nice, I can charge the controller inside that case, and there's just a little port I can open up on the outside of the case to plug the cable in. And the dock also has a little like magnet pad it sits on in there, so it won't like move around or anything. If it's just the dock in the case, I can shake that thing and that dock will stay perfectly in there and not get tossed all around. And that is it for the pros. Now on to the cons. The biggest thing for me is the D-pad. If you have used a like Xbox One controller and then some of these next gen like Series 2 controllers, you will notice the D-pad on the older controllers is really mushy and it is that plus style. And then on the newer controllers, it is this like more circular kind of thing, but it's super like tactile and clicky and doesn't really wobble around at all. It is amazing. And I'm really disappointed because on this Elite controller, their Series 2 controller, which is like their newer one, the D-pad's not as good. The D-pad's actually worse. Like, the D-pad is a hybrid between like, I'm just going off the feel of this, by the way, because you can change between the plus and this newer, more circular design. But the feel on the newer gen controllers is really tactile, and on the older ones it's really squishy, and this one's a little in between. It still makes a click, but the click's definitely quieter, and it also wobbles around a lot, which is really annoying because I thought the D-pad on this was going to be fantastic, but I was really disappointed in it. And then the next thing I was a little disappointed in was my capture button. My capture button is gone. I now have that little mode switcher button that allows me to switch like my macros, except that capture button that I could double tap and I could single tap and long press, yeah, it's gone. It doesn't have a capture button. Now, the next con is the battery pack. Now, this isn't really a complaint for me, but I could see other people maybe not loving this. There is no way to like put 2 AA batteries in or anything like that in the back. That back plate is just gone. Your 2 options of charging is the USB-C port, so you just plug a cable in, or you can also use the wireless charging dock thing. I honestly, this doesn't bother me at all, but I can definitely imagine some people being a little upset that they couldn't just plop 2 AA batteries into their Elite controller. But I actually kind of like it because it gives it a more clean look and there's not this little back plate that might pop off. Now the next thing is another thing that the Gen 2 controllers did better than the Elite 2 controller, and that is the Xbox logo. That little logo at the top of your controller. Now, on the Elite 2 controller, it does light up, and you are able to actually change the brightness in which it lights up. But at full brightness, it is still dimmer than the normal Xbox like logo light up. So it's a little hard to see sometimes. And also, when you go to press down the button, it doesn't really press. It's like that it goes down like a millimeter of travel, and it's just a tiny tactile button. Instead of on the other controllers, it's much more of a press, which I quite like more. I feel like when I go to press that Xbox logo, I'm like, oh, that was it. I pressed it. There wasn't enough really like travel for me to be satisfied. And the final biggest con for a lot of people probably is the price. This thing is $180. For reference, the Xbox Series S costs $300. This thing costs more than half of a next-gen console, which is a lot. So would I recommend going out and buying this because you're like, oh, I want some paddles, and that's really all you want, and you're a little tight on money, but you're like, I could make this work? Absolutely not. This controller is an absolute gimmick. Yes, it has all of those amazing features, but it doesn't give you a crazy competitive advantage. If you're just a casual gamer like me that plays games every now and then, a little bit, set times, maybe only on the weekends sometimes because I don't have time during the week, it's not worth it. If you are playing games competitively, like all day, this was like your job, I could see this being an advantage, and you would definitely, there is an advantage to having those paddles and all that customization to just get that more control, like that longer stick. But I really don't feel for the average casual gamer like this is a necessity. Anyways, that's going to be it for this video. Let me know if you guys still use the included Xbox controller, or do you have the Elite Series controller? Just curious how many of you probably have bad spending habits and probably don't need this thing.